Do you like speed? Do you want more power? Are you tired of seeing what's happening on the screen? Do you wish for some motion sickness? We've got all of that and more with Flicker Strike. Hey guys, welcome to a quick overview of my PoE2 Flicker Strike build. It has flickering going, as you saw in the clips just before. So how do we make it work? First of all, let me say that this is more of a proof of concept than a build guide, because I'm still playing around. I'm actually not really investigating all the whatever uniques there are in PoE2. I'm just still exploring the game at my own pace, not really ruining the fun for myself. So the build is definitely not optimized, but it's more of a framework for how to build your own Flicker Strike. And we have two options, one being the monk with the invoker Ascendancy, and the other one being mercenary as Gemling Legionnaire, which I do also have as my second character, and that's still work in progress. Now, I definitely recommend starting with a monk, unless you already have some spectacular gear grinded and ready to go up, or if you're going to be trading for amazing gear. Because Gemling will need a lot of gear. Monk, on the other hand, as soon as I started mapping, I started using Flicker less frequently in the beginning, more so later on. So what are the key points that we need for the Flicker to work? In my case, I had to take Lead Me Through Grace as my one of the first two ascendancies. The order does not really matter, but I took this for easy spirit without having to rely on gear to get enough spirit to sustain all the gems that we need, and the Soul Springs Eternal. This is mandatory ish, depends, but it makes the flickering a lot smoother. Now we're going with Cast on Critical. Cast on Critical is definitely a lot smoother than Cast on Shock, especially when you get most of the crit nodes. We're taking crit here, we're taking the Monk's starting crit, so we have crit chance here, we have this crit wheel. I'm still only level 81, so we're making our way towards the crit chance and damage here. We have this crit chance wheel over here. We'll probably take the 10% increase over there too. Where else was there? We have more crit over here. And basically all of these crit nodes are mandatory, whether you like it or not, if you're going to be playing this version of Flicker Strike. Now, besides Flicker needing the crit, you absolutely need all the power charges. So we take one here, two here. I'm still considering whether I'm going to anoint my amulet with this one, or if I'll just spend the 3 points to get one here. And then the staff, wheel, core staff skills that consume power charges count as consuming an additional power charge. You do want that, even if one power charge counts as if you consume two. It just makes things easier if you fall behind on the charge sustain. Now, everything else is kind of optional. If you have a 100% crit chance, you might not need these two meta skill wheels. You might not need them. I do take them for gained more energy, because I want to clear with Flicker and clear fast and often. This exact build still works with just Charge Staff and Tempest Flurry, and you can play regular monk things, no worries. So if you do that, you don't really need all these meta gem wheels. We're investing in evasion and energy shield and some evasion here. That's just to sustain our defenses. Now for our defenses we do have Grim Feast, which lets us double up on our energy shield, and that happens very quickly with Flicker Strike. Basically you have double your energy shield at all times. I also have Wind Dancer to increase my evasion rating. Currently we have 83% chance. We have 13,000 evasion rating, and that allows us to dodge most things. It's linked with Blind and Clarity. Clarity just for mana sustain, and Blind because when you do get a hit, it triggers Gale Force, and that's basically just a shock wave around you that deals some damage. The damage is not substantial, but then you're able to 100% blind every enemy around you, improving your survivability once again. And final piece for our defenses is Ghost Dance. Ghost Dance, same as Path of Exile 1, whenever you're hit, recover 5% of your evasion as energy shield. And that's quite a number, especially for that one first hit while you still have the Wind Dancer active. We have Cannibalism, just to recover life on kills. Before you get Cannibalism, if you're running low on spirit, you might as well spend 2 skill points to take life from death, recover 3% of life on kill. That's enough to sustain you in clear, usually. And yes, we also have fast forward on Ghost Dance. We just want to always have stacks. If you're getting shotgunned by something, you want all the stacks to be back as soon as possible. And so those are our spirit gems. Now Cast on Critical, like I said, can be replaced by Cast on Shock. It was a lot more difficult to proc. You will not be able to really sustain your flicker that much, but it is a cheaper alternative, and it works early on, especially if you're using flicker only occasionally, if you do have the expectations of not using it constantly. And what we do link into it is Profane Ritual. Now, if you're not Flicker Strike build, there are better ways to generate power charges. Profane Ritual, though, we actually do want it because the ritual duration is 2 seconds, meaning that you can trigger it with Cast on Critical. It will cast the Profane Rituals, and only 2 seconds later will you gain the power charges, meaning that after you stop flickering, that's when you get your charges back. When your charges is back, you can flicker again. Works pretty well. We also have Impetus and Energy Retention, so both support gems are just increasing our frequency of triggering Cast on Critical. Now we only have, let's see, it's over here. We currently only have 61, almost 62% crit chance. This is pretty much enough to sustain flickering like 80% of the time before you have to like stop, Tempest Flurry, few mobs, maybe trigger your Siphoning Strike to get charges going again. I believe if you're gonna hit like 80% or 90% crit, it's going to be pretty much fantastic. Now the problem here is that this is a setup for clearing with Flicker. You do not really generate charges on bosses. So there's 2 things you can do. You can either have full charges when you go into the boss fight, and then just flicker it down, and it's most likely gonna die, or it will be left on 15-20% HP, and then you just finish it with Bell and Tempest Fury. And that's fine. But if you're fighting just a pinnacle boss, or otherwise you have cleared out the whole map, you're out of charges, and now it's just a boss fight left, what you have to do, in my case, I have Conduction on my Tempest Flurry, so it shocks more often. We then have Siphoning Strike with Profusion, and what that allows us to do, together with Endless Circuit, is to apply Shock, remove it with Siphoning Strike, potentially automatically reapply it, so we keep Siphoning Striking it, and that gives us the initial power charges that we need, meaning you do need to fight and avoid the damage of the boss normally for 5 to 10 seconds, depending on how lucky or unlucky you are with getting the shocks going. Now, I have not explored the option of second weapon set and having just increased shock chance and lightning damage, and just having one skill that will switch into a different weapon to shock a lot real quick. That potentially would be a better option than applying your shocks with Tempest Flurry. Because Tempest Flurry, as good as it is, it's only 60% of damage is converted to lightning. If we could use a skill that converts 80, 90, or 100%, it would be a lot easier to actually do the shocks. But that's something for the future. Maybe a follow-up video would cover that. So how does everything work? Like I said, we do regain our charges and we sustain them just fine. There will be situations though where your Flicker Strike will end in a huge pack of enemies, and even if you regain your charges, you can't really Flicker Strike again, because it essentially has a wind-up animation. Think of it as a cast time. That's what I think of it. And there's essentially a half a second or a second long animation that Flicker Strike needs to do before it starts going. And you can be interrupted, you can be stunned, frozen, all the horrible things may happen. So if Flicker Strike lands you in a pack of enemies, what I personally do is drop the bell that I have magnified effect on. We have Maim. This is mainly for boss fights, doesn't matter for the pack problems. And currently I have Heavy Swing, but I was considering having Cooling Strike, because when you land in a pack of enemies, you pop down your bell and you Tempest Flurry into it, and everything dies around you, and you can proceed to Flicker Strike. Basically, you just need a second of prep time to be able to flicker safely. You can still risk it. Maybe evasion rating will carry you, maybe it won't. It's a gamble that I was not willing to take. So we have the bell, we have charge staff. Now, I'm personally huge enjoyer of the charge staff, potentially because I haven't really invested into physical damage geometry. Now, Flicker Strike itself is just pure physical damage. It does not convert any of your damage to anything. I do have Lightning Infusion, which gains 25% of damage as extra lightning for this. And obviously you must have perpetual charge on your flicker. And if you can have 20% or more gem itself, or the chance to not consume charges, the more the better. That's why the Gemling Legionnaire is actually the optimal flicker ascendancy. It's just not very viable early game when I'm just lacking gear. but it is better. So I do have lightning infusion, and we're kind of only taking some lightning damage here, some maximum lightning damage, and that's kind of it. We're really just head in first onto crit and crit damage. I do have attack damage here. Attack damage should count for whatever type of damage Flicker Strike does, so it will apply to the 25%. Well, it won't apply because this is extra lightning damage, but it will apply to the physical component of Flicker Strike. Now, if you don't want to waste charges on Charge Staff, you would absolutely have to refund the lightning nodes here and just go in for some physical or attack damage. There's 20% physical here. We have some attack damage over here, and you could go the physical route. The reason why I'm attempting to give my Flicker Strike a higher conversion of damage to lightning and in general elemental damage is because we're a monk, and our third Ascendancy is our critical hits ignore monster elemental resistances. And that's very powerful because we don't need to invest into anything, into penetration, into resistance reduction. Don't need to do any of that. We're just investing into crit, and that works out in all the ways at the same time, both for cast on critical, both for increasing damage with the crit damage bonus, and ignoring resistances. If you go pure physical, there's going to be different problems that you will have to address, especially gaining charges on a boss fight, because we can easily shock when we're doing lightning damage. We can shock and we can do charge staff. If you don't do that, you would most likely have to do resonance and generate frenzy charges on, although it's on electrocution either. So I don't know. I really did not want to do physical Flicker Strike either way, so can't really comment on that. Now we're only level 80, so what else are we looking to get? We're definitely looking to get the rest of the crit nodes here, the 10% crit over there. We are considering potentially getting the increased attack speed per dexterity, just going through this, which is quite a lot of dexterity, and then attack speed. Attack speed on Flicker Strike should be fantastic. Or maybe not. Who knows, really. The other option I do have is getting the melee damage and strike range from over here, but I'm not sure how that's going to work out together with getting all the crit nodes that we still definitely need. So that's that about the passive tree. This is pretty much the whole tree. You can look at it, you can copy it. We don't really have a POB. I'm not really going to upload the version of this one to any of the online tools. They are available, but this is not optimized, not final version of the tree. And here's the final bit at the top. Now, what about gear? What do we need from our gear? Because of our Ascendancy, we need as much energy shield and evasion on our body armor as we can get. That's mandatory unless you can get really good spirit rolls on your body armor. But even then, evasion and energy shield both are very powerful defense layers that I would not wish to skip out on. We have a helmet with just a ton of evasion. It's not great. Honestly, all of my gear is still very mediocre. I have not been able to upgrade it. I'm not using trade, so it's taking me a while. We do have crit chance and crit damage on Amulet. That's fantastic. The more the better. Highly recommend crit chance. At least crit hit chance. Damage it's optional. Rings are just purely for defenses. We do have some physical and cold damage on this ring. Entirely randomly acquired those. Staff. Now, staff is huge. This staff is pretty fantastic. It could be a lot better, but the main thing you want on your staff is very high fizz damage and then as much critical chance as you can get. I know it's hard to get. I know it's tough. I've been struggling, but the higher the crit chance on your staff, the easier it is going to be to increase it. Now, if we look at my gloves, they're garbage. Don't really look at them. They has no life, has all the mana. It's all very stupid. Don't worry about it. Same for my boots. Great resistances, no move speed. Again, I could probably buy better boots for a couple of exalts, but I'm still playing around as a single player game, still exploring things. Belt, again, nothing cool on it. The base though, I love this belt base. 20% flask recovery applied instantly, together with flask that also has 29% recovery applied instantly. Essentially, I have 500 life recovered instantly whenever I press it. So if my life is dropping, easy solution, saves my life. But realistically, that's no real gear requirements. It just, before this staff, I did use something like this while I was in early maps. Actually, this was one of my earlier staffs. It only had plus 1% to crit chance, way less damage as well, and that works fine as well. And obviously before this one, I had staff with no additional crit chance. Just make sure you have the Gothic quarterstaff, because its base crit chance is the highest I've found. Like right here, critical hit chance 11.5% compared to any other staff that by default has... Oh, that's another Gothic. I do like my Gothic staffs. There, all the other ones have 10% base crit chance. So look for the Gothic staff, try to get the crit roll, and you'll be fine. Even better if you can get something like this with 3.6% chance. The rest of the stats absolutely flopped on it though, so that's kind of a failure, and maybe we'll chaos it a few times to see if we can gamble something out of it. But yeah, that's how the Flicker Strike build works. And yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you've tried the Flicker Strike, if it works for you, if it didn't. Have you find out some interesting mechanics that can be used? Maybe you have a secondary weapon set with some crazy skill to shock or chill enemies. I'm always looking for good ideas there. And yeah, if you have any questions, leave a comment down below, or try to catch me live on Twitch, where we're streaming our endgame journey on Flicker Strike Monk. And yeah, leave a comment, leave a like, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you another time. Bye!